It's become a tradition that whenever I release new music, I'm going to break down what free plugins I used in those tracks. Let's have a look. So I recently finally finished my album The Cause. The first track on it is called Gotta Get Out. You see, I usually use way too many plugins when mixing in general, but the amount of free plugins I'm using might be kind of on the decline. Let's look at what free plugins I used anyways, starting with M Compressor. This is a plugin from the Melda Free Effects bundle. Sometimes I like to use it over my stock compressor because it has some features that the stock compressor doesn't, or it just feels a bit different to work with sometimes. For example, you have this RMS knob right here. Often I end up using it for sidechain specifically, and here I did the same thing. It's just sidechaining the bass to the drums. You can see on the reduction meter we're just doing some very quick reduction for the drum transients on the bass. Anyways, let's move on. Dimension Expander. It's on the saxophone right here. I just like to use this from time to time to make a sourceless mono. It shouldn't necessarily sound wider coming from left and right. It should just have a bit more spatial presence. La la. This is the LA2A compressor emulation by Analog Obsession. For most of my LA2A compressor needs, I've migrated to the T-Rex White 2A because I've had some issues in the past when Analog Obsession plugins get updated. But I do really enjoy the sound of these LA2A plugins, and I have them on these backing vocals right here. Fighting against the man, oh, I got it out. And without. Fighting against the man, oh, I got it out. Definitely we're getting some volume here, so it's difficult to compare, but I can promise you this is a great plugin to try out. Next up we have another Analog Obsession plugin called DB Comp. And this is probably my most used Analog Obsession plugin because I don't own any other DBX emulations. And here we have it on this guitar for some reason. I always find good results with this one when I want something to sound very snappy, but a bit more present and a bit more leveled than it did beforehand. This was Gotta Get Out. Now we're moving on to the second track called Birthday Party. Citizens anesthetic coursing through my veins. I see but don't perceive. Here I'm also using DB Comp on the bass. Just taking off some peaks. And the next free plugin I used is IVGI, a saturation plugin by Klanghelm. Sounds like this on the drums here. I can't hear it. It definitely softened up the high end a bit. Next up we have an OG free plugin, Wider. I'm using this all the time when I want something to actually sound wide. We have it on this piano thing. Very simple and very effective plugin. Oh yeah, in one spot I wanted the bass to be really wide. Without wider. I did this because I wanted to give the bass function to a piano. You can see how I'm automating this EQ node to carry the low end a bit more in this section. Next up, I used Thrillseeker XTC. Here, Mark II, I think Mark III already came out in the meantime. I've been working on this song for way too long, like over 2-3 years. I've used it here on these synths. It definitely gives it a bit more presence, so they cut through a bit more in the final mix. I've also used the ADHD leveling tool here on these synths. This is just another option you could use to get some LA2A feeling compression. Next free plugin I used is Cola B3. Here I've already bounced it out. Let me just show you quickly how it looks. That's the plugin. It's a great modeled organ plugin. And next free plugin, I used Ozone Imager on it. Yeah, that's subtle again, makes it a bit louder. Another classic, I used OTT here. I don't use OTT that often. I guess it's more beloved by EDM producers. But here I had some guitars. And they were just a bit too mid-heavy. I used OTT to tame the mids and boost the highs a bit. This is it without OTT in context. They're fighting way too much with the piano, right? They get lost, and now we add OTT. And it mainly functions here to really pull back the mids. Next up we have this saxophone, kind of edited creatively. And I'm giving it a lot of width and presence with this expander plugin, which is kind of underused in my opinion. Without it sounds like this. And with. Good plugin. And also on here is Klanghelm's DC1A, which to me seems to be another kind of LA2A-esque free compressor, if you need another one. Also just on this note right here, Dragonfly Early Reflections. This is useful to have because it gives you just early reflections of a reverb without the tail. Also I've used management to give it some side-to-side movement with this LFO, as well as old school verb. Also on here, the free tel reverb. Keep in mind, because I've worked on these songs over so many years, until the whole album was finally finished and I did the final mix and stuff. There are many plugins on here that maybe I wouldn't have used today, but they're kind of left over from how I worked back 3 years ago. And I don't even really know what this tel reverb is still doing on this track, but it's still a plugin I can recommend. It's a good reverb. You should check it out. Same with this next free plugin called Giant Verb. You can hear it right here with this little automation. And another remnant of days past, here I used TDR Nova. This is a great free dynamic equalizer. I've just not used it in quite a while. But here I've used it on these vocals. You can see I'm kind of controlling the S's up here. I was just a young boy when the news came about that Lenny and his brothers, they were all brought down. I was just a young boy when the news came about that Lenny and his brothers, they were all brought down. This is definitely useful and well done plugin. Also I've used Auto Pitch, and even though this isn't my favorite tuning plugin or anything, it's definitely cool for some crazy effects like this one. I don't feel. The form and shift. It sounds a bit grainy, but sometimes I think that's kind of cool. And another plugin from Melda's free effects bundle is Spectral Pan. This is a plugin that lets you pan audio depending on which frequency it has. And I've used it here on these stereo mics. I was just a young boy when the news came about. Without it sounds like this. I was just a young boy. The reason I did this is because usually in software pianos, for example, the lower notes will come more from the left and the higher notes will come more from the right. And with the stereo mic setup I had, it all sounded like it's coming from more or less the same space. So I thought this would be a nice way to give some more width to the sound while also making you feel a bit more like you're sitting in front of the piano. This was Birthday Party, and now for the third and final track we're going to look at in this video. Everyone is counting on you. Here you can see I've used many more instances of panagement on these guitars. And I've used it here just to pan. Without panagement it sounds like this. And with. Next up I've used many instances of tube amp on many of the vocals. This is just to generally saturate these vocals a bit more, that when it all adds up it sounds a bit more lively. That was kind of the thought process here. Without.
On his right hand man walks down the road.
And with.
On his right hand man walks down the road according to God.
And here on the high lead vocals, I've used fresh air.
Everyone is counting on you.
This is a great high frequency exciter. Without, it sounds like this.
Everyone is counting on you.
That sounds really bad, honestly. And with, it sounds like this.
Everyone is counting. Everyone is counting on you.
Without.
You have to work for the change too.
This might be the most valuable plugin in the whole lineup, honestly. Yeah, and I've used wider on this saxophone right here. Without. And for some reason I used TDR Voss Slick EQ. Not because it's a bad plugin, it's actually a really good plugin, just because I always forget about it. And usually I work with EQs like this one. But here I've used it for some reason. And it sounds like this. And with. And then we're getting to the end of our list on these saxophones right here. This faux side chaining I've done with Tau Filter 2, giving it this volume envelope, which gives this pumping sound. This is a great underrated plugin again. And I've used the free Native Instruments Raum, important here, before the pumping, before the Tau filter. And without, it sounds like this. And with.
You have to work for the change too.
Alright, these are all the free plugins I used on the first 3 songs of my album called The Cause by @Baron Lane. That's my band, that's my artist name, @Baron Lane. I would appreciate if you go check it out if you enjoy these songs in any way. And yeah, these are only the first 3 of 10 songs on the album. So let me know if you want me to continue breaking down the free plugins I used on the rest. And also let me know if you want to see some other plugins I used on here or some other production techniques or what I've been thinking. And you can check out this video where I'm talking about the plot specifically of these first 3 songs in detail. Maybe you enjoy it. And in this video I've talked about many free reverbs, free saturation plugins, and I've done dedicated lists of all my favorite free reverbs and free saturation plugins right here. And they're more or less up to date still, so go check those out. And if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.